Another item that a franchisee has to take into account when planning for operating costs is their very own salaries. Oftentimes when franchisees project their expenses, they consider the normal operating costs of employees and cost of goods, but don't consider their own compensation. So when a franchisee is projecting the operations of their franchise business, they really have to take into account how they're going to pay themselves, either as direct compensation or are they going to make the money as profits. Because again, the franchisee does not want to end up being undercapitalized. Some other items that a franchisee wants to take into account when projecting their operation, which realistically they should project over the entire term of the franchise, which is customarily somewhere between 5 years, 10 years, even as much as 20 years. They want to take into account whether or not there's any government regulation. If there's none now, is there going to be any in the future? Are there going to be associated costs with obtaining licenses and or other permits to be able to operate their franchise, which may not be on the horizon immediately, but a franchisee should plan and consider whether or not such requirements are going to come up. Another requirement that is frequently involved in franchise operations, particularly in areas like hotel franchises, are required refurbishments. Now, a lot of franchise operations require that a franchisee spend a considerable amount of money at specific times, sometimes every 2 years, sometimes at the end of the franchise term, but in any event, to refurbish and rehabilitate the franchise operation. This may involve putting in new carpeting, putting in new fixtures, replacing deep fat fryers, replacing ovens, anything that is in the nature of a capital expense when you initially go into a franchise operation has to be considered as a potential refurbishment cost. Now, this is important because, for example, again, in the hotel industry, this may be an expense of several $100,000, and again, a franchisee has to plan for an operating cost like this so that he's able to meet it, because failure to do so can result in a termination of the franchise, which would effectively dissipate the entire investment. So when a franchisee goes into this business, they not only have to project revenues, but they also have to look very carefully at expenses, not only normal operating expenses, but extraordinary operating expenses, which may be well known in terms of timing, that they will have to incur that costs at a date certain, and they will have to establish a reserve or some method of covering that cost.